He's known in New Zealand drug circles as the Gas Man, a notorious manufacturer of methamphetamine. He's cooked kilos of pea, he's run guns, and he's got hundreds of criminal convictions. And yet, the Gas Man is articulate and respectable. He's the son of a mayor, a man with passion and pride, which have been tragically misdirected.
Well, I think it is pretty typical.
What you're about to see is the drug-riddled domino effect of pea. It begins with this man, who taught himself how to make it.
Yeah, try some of this, you know. This was made by the Gas Man, and
he then showed this man how to cook.
That saying of being 10 foot tall and bulletproof is just so real.
Who got his partner addicted.
Having a good time, raging, drinking, having a ball.
Which left their daughter to pick up the pieces.
Oh, I hate it. I would never ever touch it.
And this man to wonder how to fix it.
You know, try it once, it might let you go. Try it twice, and it'll own your soul. And I think
drugs have owned Peter Thorburn for most of his life. One of the most prolific manufacturers of pea this country has ever seen. He's cooked literally millions of dollars worth of pure methamphetamine. His drug career is perhaps not surprising. He smoked his first joint at the age of 9, given to him by his sister. He was arrested for cultivating cannabis while at high school. 2 years later, his sister died of a heroin overdose.
I used to go down to her place and hold her tourniquet and watch her, and in all honesty, that probably saved my life, you know. I never used needles after watching her going from a completely normal sister to drawling and sitting in a chair nodding off as she's talking to you, you know. Oh no, stay away from that stuff will kill you, you know. Try this.
This was pure methamphetamine, and Peter Thorburn was one of the first to manufacture it. He bought hundreds of old chemistry books and literally taught himself the science. Very soon he had a 3 gram a day habit, $3,000 worth of pea every day.
I'd reach over when I opened my eyes and there'd be a pipe there full, because I'd set one full before I went to sleep, you know. Yeah, and then I'd open my eyes, I'd get up and I'd have a shower and go and have some breakfast and morning coffee, and I'd get a spoon and put a spoonful of pea in my coffee, and that and then a couple of lines as well, and then bang, I'm up, I'm ready for the day.
Pete's growing knowledge of chemistry led to newer, faster, cheaper ways of manufacturing pea. It didn't always go smoothly, like the time he almost blew himself up in a fiery gas explosion. He was left with peeling skin and the nickname of the Gas Man, but with a solid pea manufacturing business. So at its peak, this operation, what are we talking about? Hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands?
We used to have to weigh our money. You know, we couldn't count it.
Really?
Yeah. So you knew that a $10,000 or a $20,000 bunch would weigh X amount on a set of scales, and that's how you did, because you didn't want to sit around doing a deal forever. You know,
Counting it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's a chance for someone to come in and tax you, or someone to come in and take it.
What happened next reads like a commentary of major crime in this country. Where there are drugs and paranoia, increasingly there are guns. Pete started running guns for pea.
Within weeks, I was getting those green army canisters just full of shotgun cartridges, 22s, 25s, 3.0s, and then along with those started to come guns. Next thing, rocket launchers and grenades.
Rocket launchers?
Yeah, I got offered I bought it actually, 3.5 grams.
So what were you doing with the guns and the rocket launchers?
Well, they were a good way of getting what you needed to make meth with, you know. So you could go to someone that had the chemicals that you required and swap them for guns, or, you know, so they were just getting moved on for a profit. It was all about the money. It was all came down to profit, you know. And
we're still talking about New Zealand here, aren't we? Because most people would not believe that this goes on.
Oh, hey, the amount of you couldn't imagine how fast they come out of the woodwork, guns. As soon as I mentioned I wanted guns for pea, I had an arsenal.
By now, pea had taken a massive hold, but police were cracking down and it was getting harder to come by. Many of the friends the gas man was supplying had rapidly deepening addictions, and they were running out of money. They wanted to learn how to cook.
And everyone I taught, I said the same thing. This is a curse. I'm telling you now, I wish I'd never learnt it. But if you really want to learn it, I'll show you, you know. But I'm telling you now, it's going to affect your life.
Good.
Of the scores of people Pete taught to cook pea, Richard is the only one he knows who hasn't ended up in jail. But the rest of Richard's story is very familiar. He and his partner Cheryl were quickly, hopelessly hooked.
It took me 3 hours to learn how to manufacture methamphetamine. I cooked in my back garden, in my back shed. I'd close the door and do a cook late at night while my children were in my house.
I didn't care what Richard was up to, just as long as he was coming home with pea.
You had 5 kids to look after, but you weren't conscious at the time that you were spending smoking.
An hour just got into, it was 4 or 5 days later that I was awake and just kept on saying to myself, no, I've got to get up to the kids, I've got to get up to the kids, they've got to be, you know, make sure they're all right. And then it just got to the stage where I wasn't even getting up to the kids, sleep for 2 days. And I had my daughter.
It's about now you get an indication of the ripple effect this drug has. From Pete, to Richard, to Cheryl, to daughter Tash, who at 13 was left to hold the family together, the youngest just 6 months old.
I was not going to school on Mondays because they were always asleep, so I was looking after the kids. Yeah, I did everything. I did the washing, made sure the kids had baths and showers and were clothed, and yeah. And while I was at school, I didn't know what was going on, but then I'd come home and make sure they were all right.
So you became your younger brother's mother and father?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you carried quite a burden for a 13-year-old, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Still quite hard now, like I still hold it against them.
What do you think now about the fact that Richard was cooking pea at home?
Kind of real upset that he did that when we were around. That he knew we were inside and we could have blown up. Yeah. Real upset that he could have done that and put us in that danger.
It's not a poor man's drug, it's not a rich man's drug, it's not just in between.
It's danger Mike Sabin saw over and over again as a detective. He once raided Cheryl and Richard's house looking for drugs and knew of the gas man's reputation.
For every one person that Pete's taught, or anyone else for that matter, they go on to teach someone else, and they go on to teach someone else. You know, so are the beginnings of an epidemic. I mean, that's all it takes.
But he left the police, frustrated that law enforcement itself couldn't fix the problem. Now he runs a company teaching others about the consequences of pea.
It tears the heart of the family out. I mean, as simple as that. The need to feed the habit becomes the overriding factor. You know, you're thinking about your next fix, and it's not a whim. We're talking a desperate craving, a biological, a driven craving, and so the kids are just tossed aside.
What's the worst situation you've ever come across?
When I was with the police, yeah, for sure. You know, you do search warrants and there's no food in the home. And I've been to places where toilets are overflowing and faeces and urine, you know, scattered about the house. You know, 3 or 4 children, you know, with nothing to eat. Mum and dad who can't function, can't get out of bed, no clean clothing. You know, and they're growing up. This is their life.
The child neglect is perhaps not surprising when you consider what pea is doing to the user.
Obviously they start to lose a lot of weight. Their eyes start to sink into their head. They start getting the bugging and the sores and the scratching. You know, often they're pulling their hair out or plucking away at their eyebrows, or they become quite obsessed about sort of repetitive, almost self-harming behaviours. The teeth begin to rot, and it's like they've got a mouthful of chips, and they almost spit them out, and you know they'll just literally break off. And the hair is bedraggled and straw-like and pulled out in clumps. They have a look. You know, you'll know those people when you see them.
If it seems alarming, What's of even greater concern is where pea manufacture is heading. With a crackdown on the ingredients traditionally used in meth, pea cooks are being forced to come up with new alternatives. In the United States now, many are bypassing ephedrine for chemicals that are more easily accessible.
It's a completely different chemistry, and it takes a little bit longer to make, but the end product is 5 times stronger than what anything you'll get out of ephedrine.
That's frightening.
It is frightening, and it's a bit harder than the other way, but everything's just so accessible.
We are about to find out just how accessible. Pete takes us shopping for the ingredients to cook up a batch of pea the new way. He's not questioned about what he's buying.
There's every acid and chemical there is.
Yep.
$66.50.
And within 15 minutes, for less than $100, he has everything he needs.
Did you have any problems at all getting this stuff?
None at all. None at all. In fact, I could have bought it in bulk.
It's pretty scary, isn't it, that you can get all of this so easily?
Yep. Well, that is exactly how easy it is, you know. And as long as someone knows where to get it, it won't take them long.
I'm going to try meth just once.
So if the manufacturing is potentially about to get easier, some say it's time to confront the demand instead.
Just once.
In America, this is how they're doing it.
I'm going to sleep with him for meth just once.
When it's this bad, they say there are only 3 ways of escaping
Still
it.
just once.
Sobered up, locked up, or covered up.
I'm going to try meth just once.
It was a meeting with the daughter of a dealer that became the sobering moment for Richard.
When we pulled up outside this house, this little 6-year-old girl came and delivered 3 grams of methamphetamine to me. And all she said to me was, if the money's not right, my dad will kill you. I drove back from Auckland to Wangara, cried all the way home. I had a 4-year-old son that I was possibly going to turn into a drug addict. Couldn't do it anymore.
Cheryl's trigger to go straight was hitting rock bottom. As they say in the business, she fried after smoking for 4 days in a row.
It wasn't till I'd actually woken up the next day or the following day that I actually listened and took in what they were actually telling me I was doing and what I'd done. My baby's was found with 3 bottles in his cot that I can't remember giving him the bottles. I can't remember leaving them in there.
Was that your last point, do you think?
Yeah. I'd gone too far.
Peter Thorburn's reality check was to come soon after. He ended up in Mount Eden prison on firearms charges, his second stint in jail. And this time he too hit rock bottom. He'd lost everything he had, and learned while inside that his pea-smoking pregnant girlfriend had lost their baby. It was time to go straight.
There were a couple of points that hit home while I was in there. The fact that I'd seen a kid go into a fridge and pull out a pump bottle full of something to drink, and because a lot of the liquids that you use are clear, had picked up this and started drinking liquid caustic, and that had blistered all the kid's mouth. The 10-year-old girl that is sitting there with 2 ounces and making up gram bags, or the cerebral palsy kid that was in the house when people were cooking, you know, and those things sort of made me just cringe, you know.
That's shocking.
It is shocking.
Pea is an insidious drug that is wreaking havoc in our society. But for addicts, it's not so much about the big picture. They don't have to look far to see the damage it can cause.
Somebody took a photo of me, and it wasn't until about 6 or 7 months later that we got the film developed, and I saw the photos, and I looked disgusting, really thin. All you could see was just bones, all in here.
It's a huge, huge cost for this drug, isn't it?
Yep. It's just about cost me my life. It's cost other people that it shouldn't have cost. Especially my kids. And I have to live with that shame for the rest of my life.
The shame is a consistent theme. For Peter Thorburn, his deepest regrets are over his son, who is now 17.
The whole time he's been alive, I've been involved in, might get a little bit emotional for me, but I've been involved in drugs, you know, or some form of illegal activity, and we were starting to develop a bond, and then bang, I was arrested, 2002, manufacturing meth, gone to jail, and here I am coming down in jail off all this pee I was smoking. My emotions are just running rife. And what did I think about? I thought about not seeing my son, and wondering that whether he was going to turn out like me.
So now the gas man too has turned around his life. Out of prison, he continued his rehab. Now he's studying to be a counsellor. He wants to help people like the man he used to be.
I lost respect for myself, you know. I lost everything, you know, and I couldn't face people. When I came out of jail, it was very hard to turn around and say, "Hi, how's it going? I've just got out of jail," you know. But now, I'm the opposite. What I'm doing is I'm trying to help kids get off meth, you know. And if I can do that, if I can save one family from breaking up, or, you know, or help someone that is so down and so out, get out and give them some steps to becoming a person again, then I'm happy, you know.